Good afternoon, everybody watching the Horn Hangouts from all around the world. Good afternoon from Berlin. It's actually tea time here. Tim Jones and I, welcome Tim. We decided we'd start off with a cup of tea.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
We don't always say cheers with tea, but here we go.
Well, why not? Cheers, everybody. And what are you drinking? Where are you and what are you drinking? That's what we want to know. Biscuit?
You're going to force me on camera to eat a biscuit. I've already had 3 or 4, but I'll have another one just for.
Today is all about Mozart horn concertos, and I had the idea because the LSO are in town today. You're not playing Mozart, though, are you,
No,
Tim?
sadly, we're doing Messiaen today.
Messiaen, as
Messiaen.
Stefan J would say,
Yeah.
Messiaen. But you've played many Mozart horn concertos in your day.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Done them all over the years.
And which one's your favourite?
2's always my favourite.
Why?
I just like the tunes. I know that 4 is so famous with the last movement that's been popularised, but for me, number 2, I just fell in love with that one.
Well, my favourite one's Mozart 3 because it hasn't got many high notes, but
That's not easy, though.
no, musically, actually, I find that I think probably the hardest to sort of deal with and to phrase and to.
Yeah, because it's simple. It's number 3 is quite simple, but actually to do something with it other than just play the notes. And of course, as you know, it's a concerto that we hear all the time because it's
Da,
the low,
da, 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 da. Thank
it's
you.
the low horn concerto that everybody plays. So one hears it all the time. And what really stands out is when somebody comes along and just turns a few little corners with it. It's lovely.
Yeah, that's really amazing. We have, I know some people are watching. They have, Annie and Dylan are watching in LA. Hello, you two, you 3, and Henry, the baby, too. Kostas is watching from Athens in Greece. Kostas and Maria. They made me my mute. This fantastic mute. Heidi in New York and Alabama, Pete in Troy, Alabama, Alexandra Honigsberg from New York. Hi, Alexandra.
Hi.
Hadley from Boston, Selena in Hamburg. Oh my goodness, I love this. I haven't seen my mum on the chat yet.
She'll be there. I'm sure she will.
She's always there. And I know Gerd says hello from Berlin. Gerd Seifert?
No, it can't be.
No, it can't be. So I know you're watching on Facebook as well, and the thing is, I only have the chat for the website here because the Facebook chat goes on so fast. We can't deal with the questions on that. So if you have questions about Mozart, and we hope you do, get onto the website and you'll see the chat and write your questions there. Now I know Julie Landsman is watching.
Hey, Julie, my favourite, one of my favourite people.
One of your favourite people. You two sent me a hilarious video. Yeah. You were just together in Santa Barbara.
That's right. It was the LSO was there for a week, and then I was out actually 5 or 6 days before that doing some coaching at the Academy of the West.
And Julie played with you?
Yes, Julie came in and played some third horn. And it was just lovely. She's one of the great characters of the world.
Well, I've asked Julie, and I think Jen Montone is going to join us, and Andrew Bain, it's midnight in Australia, and he said he wasn't quite sure if he could say anything useful at that time of day, especially after all that Australian red wine that Mike had been drinking. Andrew, are you there? And if you are, say hello.
Hi, yeah.
So I was trying to recreate the Principal Horn Hangout that we did.
2015?
That's right, from the IHS, which Annie and Andrew organised.
Yeah, that was a nice thing.
So amazing.
That
was Annie. That was the best one. That was so amazing. We had such a good time there.
It was lovely. Yeah.
Stefan is here, but he's not here. But he says hi.
He's practicing.
He's practicing. No, he's meeting. He's doing a horn concerto by Abrahamson, right, and I said we didn't want to talk about Abrahamson today. We wanted to talk about Mozart.
Right. Okay.
But I'm sure you'll see him later.
See him later.
We're going to have a big party after. Let's not Gerd Seifert, just Gerd Müller.
For the camera, you're jealous about because apparently Simon Rattle never gave a party when he was your principal conductor, and he is for the LSO. Thank you, Simon.
He gave us parties, but this is a special one, and we were going to give you a party. So it's a special one, and you know what? I'm going to gate crash it.
Oh, of course, you're always welcome.
So. Nuri is watching.
Hi, Nuri.
Hello, Nuri. Goodness me, this is really quite amazing. Now, Nuri sent me something for our very first question today. Okay, the very first question is this one. Do you trill in Mozart from up or from down? See that?
Oh gosh, that's the debate that everybody has. I can only say what I do. Oh, okay, what do you do, Sarah?
No, I asked. You're the guest.
No, well, yes, but it's...
I can tell you what I do, but you tell me first, and if your answer is good, I'll copy it.
I do trill from the upper note.
Upper note.
Yeah.
It says, I start always from the upper note. Now, I heard from Adrien Martin, who's playing this week with us, who was a student of Marie-Louise, that Marie-Louise also trills from the upper note, except in 2 occasions, and unfortunately I can't remember all of them, except from when you're going down, da 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 da, or when you're going, I can't remember. Adrian, if you were watching, can you tell us the rule? I forgot. Anyway, that's quite nice, isn't it? Nuri sent it to me today.
Lovely.
So, yeah. So you would trill from the upper note?
I would, yeah.
What about if someone's having a problem with those G to A trills? Is it allowed to finger those?
Yeah, I think especially on the modern horn, we've got to use the advantages that we've got, and that's one of the advantages that you can. I mean, the problem with the trill with the valve trill is you get do 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 do. It's getting it fast enough. But I think it's legitimate on the modern horn to be able to use those occasionally. I've heard people do valve trills that are almost indistinguishable.
Yeah, but that G to A just seems like such a huge space to trill in.
It is. But you can, as I said, I've heard people do that, and it can be convincing.
Yeah.
It can be.
My mum has just written. She says, "Tea in a glass, shocking. It should be bone china." Sorry, Mum, we're in Germany. This is all we do. But we did get some nice bickies, which is I don't dare eat them now. I'll be spitting them out for the whole horn. Jen is there. Hi, Jen.
Hello, Jen.
Hi, Jen. And Jenna, you've met Jenna, haven't you? She's in Seattle.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So Leo says trill from the upper note unless the note before the trill is the upper note. Thank you, Leo, for that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. That's exactly what I do. Yes.
Yeah, that makes if you're in bum ba da bum bum ba, you go back up to
You're
it.
going back up to the upper note.
Okay, good. So everyone is writing in where they're watching from. You Facebookers who are watching it live on Facebook, please get over to the chat and write them in. Or maybe Handsome Tim is watching. Handsome Tim is not in Australia. Handsome Tim is in Amsterdam, helping us run the stream here. So thank you for that. So if you see any good questions, copy them into this chat. Ricardo from Peru. We've got people watching everywhere. So
well, now that you've got a fan club from Peru.
Oh, you've got a fan club. We had a great time in Peru, didn't we?
Yeah, with you, yeah. And Sarah brilliantly cajoled us all to meet the Peruvian horn players.
That's right.
There's a big fan club.
We had a fantastic time. We had a flash mob in Peru. Ricardo, you were playing, weren't you? And then the LSO horns, they had a concert. I was free that night. I said, come on, guys. And it was like 11 o'clock. And I said, come on, please come out. And you came out and they serenaded us. And we got presents and beer. And it was a fantastic night in Peru. Thank you very much for that. So you're all telling me where you're writing in from, which I want to know. But what we really, really want to know is what questions you have about Mozart and Mozart horn concertos. I've got all the music here. Tim, you're actually recording them. Well, you've recorded one already.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Tell us about what's going on.
Well, and so are you recording.
Maybe I'll tell you about that.
I'll be the interviewer
in a
minute.
We're not playing that game.
Them. It was a project that's been. Actually, I feel so fortunate that I'd done number 3 a few years ago, live with the orchestra, and then I decided that before I was 60, I really wanted to.
You're not 60 yet?
No, I'm not 60 yet. It's coming up very soon. I really wanted to get to do them, so could do them all live with the orchestra. So I approached our managing director, thinking that somewhere along the line I'd have to probably find some sponsorship to get that done. And serendipity has it that she'd already had a project in her mind. Which a concerto I'm recording next month is part of.
Which one is next month? 3 you've done? 2?
3 I've already done. 4 is next month.
Right.
And it's part of a project that's going to be all the wind concertos recorded live with the orchestra. So this concert that's coming out, I'm doing number 4 and the concertanti, and there's an oboe concerto and a clarinet concerto. Then the following year it'd be the other 2 concertos, and then there'd be the flute concerto and bassoon concerto on that.
Great.
So it was just lucky that I thought about it at the right time.
But it's the first time you're recording 4, right?
Yep. Yeah,
I
I've
went
never
through.
recorded
I
them
went
before.
through the entire list of everyone who's recorded all the Mozart horn concertos. It's massive.
It is. I mean,
it's absolutely massive. Who's recorded it all?
And just so happens that this is going to be on LSO Live label, and they were thrilled at the prospect because that Mozart horn concertos are one of the top selling classical music CDs out there.
I'll buy yours.
No, well, and I'll buy yours. And Sarah's going to be recording. Come on, let's just turn it. Can I be the interview,
We want to talk about.
I want to talk about your concertos.
I'm going to tell you very quickly. I'm going to record Mozart 3 and the new Mozart. Well, I don't know how new it is. Do you guys know about this? Jen, Julie, anybody out there? Annie, do you guys know about this new one? It's the Concerto 370B and 371 together. So it's the concert piece, the concert rondo with new bars that they discovered. And it's also a beautiful first movement.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually know about this. The Cubans told me about this because the conductor Pepe he'd been in Salzburg and he said, "Oh, you should try this new one." It says it's been put together by Robert D. Levine and Breitkopf and Hertel have published it. And it's absolutely beautiful, and I can't find too many recordings of it. Do you guys know this?
You did mention that off camera, and actually I now remember that I have heard a snippet of Radek playing.
Radek told me, I saw him in the summer,
Yeah.
I asked him about it, he said he's recorded it.
Yes.
But because there's no slow movement, we don't know if this first movement is supposed to go with the concert rondo, but we just say it is.
Yeah.
And he put something in the middle, I can't remember what it is, but do you know this one? Bum bum ba bum 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 ba da 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 dum 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 da da. Anyway, you could actually get your horn out and play it for us if you really want.
You've got yours
Well,
there, Sarah. Mine's in the case
you
for
can
a
play
reason,
it on
and
a
it's staying in the case.
You can play it on a natural horn if you want. Now that would be nice. Anyway, so I'm recording those two in Havana and mixing it up with some Cuban music, and it's called Mozart and Mambo. It's going to be very cool. But I will tell you all about that another time.
Oh, I'm glad it's out there. So please pester Sarah to get some more information out of her. I've been trying for over a year, and that's as far as I've got.
No, it's going to be great. We were there in the summer, and we rehearsed it, and I'm having these arrangements made. The rondo of Mozart 3 we've turned into a mambo.
Yeah.
It's very cool. And the Cubans say Mozart should have been a Cuban, because his whole joie de vivre and his way with the women, apparently. I don't know, anyway. Jen doesn't know this, but there we go. How did they discover it? Asked Ricky. You know what? I don't know.
No,
I will find out. I think it was just from sketches, and I think they put it together. Yeah. But it's all in E flat. There is another fragment in E, I found.
That's right. Actually, funny enough, that might be called that as well, but separately, completely separately, because strangely enough, the assistant principal of the Royal Academy of Music in London is also called Tim Jones.
Oh!
And he's actually completed a whole movement, that E major fragment. He's done an orchestration of it and completed it sort of in the style of Mozart. So there might be another little project to do the Tim Jones recording the E major fragment
put together by
Tim Jones, but not Tim Jones, another Tim Jones.
Now that would be a good one for the publicity.
So we'll see.
Tim, we are almost all together. Jen is on the chat, Julie is on the chat, Andrew is still awake. In Melbourne, are you, Andrew? You and me and Stefan Dor is with us in...
he'll be here in we never know where he is.
You never know where he is, but he's practicing. So that's great. Jen, Andrew and Julie, could you write in what your favorite editions are? Because we've just had this question from Alexandra, and I know I thought about which ones I really loved and which ones helped me the most playing, preparing the concertos, and the ones I listened to preparing for my performance of it. Can you say which ones are your favorites?
The editions, or you mean?
Edition. Oh, someone asked about the edition.
You said editions.
She did.
Do you mean recordings?
She did. She asked editions. I'm sorry, I'm getting in German. German. Edition, yes. Which one is your favorite edition?
Well, I mean, there's no real... I think the only ones that really we should be playing of the Breitkopf, because... in fact, these are the slightly older
These are great. Look at this. Can you see this one, you guys? This is my original one, and because the first piece I ever played, look at that, was the second movement.
Oh,
Dun, dun,
Well, of course, now the very
H13.
latest Breitkopf edition don't have a lot of this slurring,
which is good because
it's just just what's actually in Mozart's hand is in there. I mean, this would have been edited by somebody, but the very latest Breitkopf it just represents what Mozart wrote. Yeah. And I think that's quite good.
I do too. I mean, I always think get the plainest one you can, but also do what you want with it.
Yeah,
you know, you want to stay in the style of Mozart, but just because there's no articulation written there doesn't mean you can't put it in. What about your favorite recordings?
Oh, now that's so contentious.
I mean, if mine was out, you'd say mine, and if yours was out, I'd say yours.
No, of course.
But apart from that,
I think being British, one has to mention. I mean, not for horn playing, but just for musicality, one has to mention the brain.
Of course.
You know, the several brain recordings.
And Julie just wrote in too that. That's
I mean,
her
for musicality, I mean, to this day and age, you'd say it's probably old-fashioned horn playing. But musically, it's just extraordinary, and it's especially the recordings that they're doing on the little pea shooter, the F. They're just lovely. I just heard a recording yesterday.
What horns did he play for those? Do you know?
With the famous Philharmonia Karajan recordings, that's on his B flat single horn, Alexander B flat single horn. But there's loads of recordings, and there's some earlier ones that he did where he's just playing the little FP shooter. Yeah.
Pea shooter, you have to explain that to like our friends in Peru, and so a pea shooter horn we call a horn that just plays in a single.
Yeah, well, we used to call them the pea shooters because that was a phrase a nickname that was developed in England because the compared to the modern horn, the bore is much smaller, and it made a much smaller, much clearer direct sound. Yeah. And so we just nicknamed the pea shooters.
I have to mention, of course, Dennis Brain, and also another Brit, Tony Halstead. Anthony Halstead made the most amazing recording on the hand horn. This is actually one of his, this hand horn here. Yeah. It's a Halstead Webb, I think one of the very first ones that he built. And it's a beautiful recording. And Tony's a master in making notes almost sound the same. Yeah.
I mean, he was, for me, one of the first people that really so convincing playing the natural horn.
This brings us to our next question.
Right.
Ollie Johnson. Hello, Ollie. Nice to see you or hear you from London. You know Ollie.
Yes, I do know Ollie.
I met him in the NYO a long time ago. Hi, Sarah and Tim. Do you think that the phrasing and shaping of the melodies in Mozart should be dictated by how it lies on the natural horn, i.e. should notes which are stopped have more emphasis? And this is exactly what we mean with Tony's...
I'm laughing because Ollie's done some studying with me, and one of the things these days I'm thinking about a lot, and I talk a lot about with my students, and Ollie's brought that up, is that you know, now we're so much further on from when the hand horn, if you like, came back into fashion. We've got used to, we now pretty much know with the original music scene what it would have sounded like, and my big thing with that is we should take care playing on the modern horn. We have to keep it in our mind what it sounded like on the hand horn, because some of the stuff that you do on the hand horn affects the phrasing very much. It changes how you would phrase. Because we have to believe that Mozart knew what he was doing, what notes were stopped, what notes were hard stopped.
Well, he had his good friend, the one that he kept calling a donkey.
Of course, and so we have to believe. And if you look at the music carefully and realise what are the stop notes, what are the, you know, it changes. That it should impact how you phrase on the modern horn.
Can you give us sort of an example of? That's one of the new ones here. Do you want one of the Mozart
really
3
or number 4?
Number 4. We have number 4. Which one's that? There's number 4.
Okay, for example.
Tim is amazing, says Andrew Bain.
Thank you.
Tim, Andrew, cheers.
Okay.
It's midnight in Australia.
Here we go.
It's okay.
So
We
I
can
don't
just
know
sing
who's got
it.
the camera. So we've got this phrase here at the end of the opening theme is. Bum, pick it up, beat up, 3, 4, 1, dum, pick it up, bum, B, and then the next note is hand out of the bell, gestopft, And then, so it actually should dictate that there's a crescendo, decrescendo there. There's going to have to be, because on the hand horn, you couldn't go, da, the note, hand out the bell is going to ring out. And a lot of people go, da, dee,
They do.
and then start crescendoing.
Like me.
But that next note is a Christoph note. The next note is a Christoph note.
But couldn't
for
you
me.
really honk it out?
Yeah, but, you know, I think pretty much harmonically that wouldn't be like that. You wouldn't do that. You just wouldn't do it. I mean, that's just for an example. That's the sort of thing I think if it affects the phrasing, how you'd play it on the hand horn, I think we need to be mindful of that.
So do you think all students should learn the hand horn? What do you guys think? Do you think everyone should at least have a couple of years studying it at college? I mean, I found it absolutely irreplaceable this time I spent with Tony Halstead.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it can't do any harm. It can't do any harm.
I just don't like playing it in a concert.
No, there is. I think
that's too scary.
And of course, as original instrument techniques have moved on so much, it is a little bit like that. You can't be jack of all trades these days. I think years ago maybe you could do a bit of this and a bit of that, but predominantly you do find the people that are playing the natural horns are pretty much full time.
There's a lovely thing I found on YouTube of Roger Montgomery playing, it probably was the Age of Enlightenment, and they were playing the concert rondo with the original text.
Oh yes, it was reading it out.
Yes.
Yeah,
they were. You could see it above, and the orchestra was going oh and laughing at him. It's a really cool thing on YouTube. You guys can look it up. It's really great. So you're all very quiet. We want to know who are your favorite recordings. And the edition we've decided, the most simplest, the simpler the better. There's some wonderful Russian editions I came over recently, and there was all sorts of stuff in there. In Cuba, they had some copy of something. It was quite impressive. The most important thing, I think, I had a student once that came and played me something with an articulation, and I stopped and I said, "Why are you playing this articulation?" And she stopped and she thought about it. I said, "Do you like it?" And she said, "Oh, my teacher told me to." And I said, well, maybe, you want to listen to some other ways and maybe decide what you like the best. If it's still the way your teacher thinks, then great. But that's why it's so important to hear all these different recordings, I think.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I'm blessed. I've got to say I'm blessed because my darling wife, who's a super fine cellist.
Is she watching?
I'm not sure she is actually.
Hello,
she's looking
Jo.
after our children. Hello, Jo, if you are. Being married to a string player, if you look at a string player's part and look to the horn player's part, and I say this to my students, I'll say, okay, let's have a look at your part. What are you actually doing? I mean, a lot of people don't actually write in exactly what they're doing. If you look at a string player's part, it's like, anybody could play that because it's all written there for what to do, clear, precise, consistent markings.
Well, they'll all go the wrong way if they don't write it all in.
Well, quite. So not only that, but articulations and how, short, long, whatever it is. And I'm sure you teach, you must look at your student's part and say, okay, I want to look at that part and so I know exactly what you're doing. And often I say, okay, play what's on the part. And
yeah, but that's the thing. I look often at the part. I hear someone in a master class and I think, oh, great, I can say this, this, and this. Because, what it's like. The master class, you're always thinking, okay, what am I going to say in front of everyone? And then I look at their part, and actually everything I've said is in their part.
Just haven't done it.
They hadn't done it. so that happens a lot. Here we've got some good suggestions coming in. Kevin McDonald says Mason Jones. He played on that. I think he played it first on the hand horns. Jen loves Radovan and Stefan Dors. Karen Startman, also from the Guildhall. Hi, Karen. Brain and Baumann.
Yeah.
Baumann is also great. Andrew Bain now says Sarah is the best. So
thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes. What vintage are you drinking?
Actually, there is one I love. This hasn't done them all, but the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra with David Jolly.
That's a lovely
playing
one.
number 4 actually, and I just love it because I like this. I've always been a great admirer of the sort of Con 8D playing. Sorry, no, that's gone out of fashion. But,
no.
And David, it just reminds me of how great, the 8D kid sound.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame that something like Vince DeRosa never recorded
that. Would have been amazing to hear Vince DeRosa playing the Mozart horn concertos.
Yeah,
I would have loved that.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved that. Simon says Brain and Barbarac with quartet. Radic recorded, I don't know which one, or all of them with the quartet. Jen has asked for a very good question. Now, Jen and Julie, Julius wrote, yay, Con 8D.
Yeah.
It's so great to have you guys on the chat, really it is. Jen, can you share your thoughts on writing a convincing Mozart cadenza? Now, I definitely wanted to get to the cadenzas. Jen, Julie, Andrew, anybody else out there, can you share your thoughts about writing a good Mozart cadenza? Yeah, will you write your own cadenza or will you play someone else's?
I'm going to do a mixture. I mean, I've always been a great admirer of the brain cadenzas, and I've also been very lucky that a great mentor of mine wrote some wonderful cadenzas called Richard Merriweather, who used to be the designer for Paxton Horns, wrote a couple of cadenzas, one for me and one for Frank Lloyd for 3 and 4.
Oh, I'd
so
love to
there's
see
going to be
them.
bits of those, and I mean they were years ago. And so I'm going to mix and match with that, and primarily because lots of other cadenzas that you could use and stuff. And some of them I disagree with it quite a bit because there's lots and lots of notes that just would be completely impossible on the handle. And I'm not saying you can only use the note.
Now that's the big question. Do you have to these days play a Mozart horn cadenza with only the notes that could be on the hand horn, or can you turn it completely around? I'm asking because I put something Cuban in
but
mine.
let's not forget that we, this day and age, I mean, on the hand horn you can get pretty much all the notes, but you've got to be careful that you don't use too many of the notes that are completely sound just awful. Of course. So I'd like to think that the cadenzas I'd use could be played on the hand horn, but I've heard a lot of cadenzas which I suppose sadly I could say I disagree with because they would just sound ridiculous on the hand horn.
The thing about cadenzas is also, it's a moment to show off and show what you can do, but don't do it for too long.
No, that's the other thing.
I mean? It just
that is the other thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you've really got to look at the Mozart piano concertos. I mean, the people don't play huge, big, romantic cadenzas. It's often short and sweet and just nice.
Get out of there.
Or a little bit.
So, do you appreciate when a student brings their own cadenza? Because I really do. If it's a good one, I really appreciate that. And also to an audition. How many times have we heard Mozart 3 in an audition?
I think, obviously that's a great thing. I mean, it shows that people have thought about it. Right at the student level, obviously. I mean, he has the teacher, and you're impressed. I'm impressed with that. He might disagree occasionally with what they've written, but I'm still impressed that they've devoted the
anyone
time.
out there, we want your own cadenza. We want original cadenzas. I didn't write mine. Klaus Wallendorf wrote mine.
Oh, well, he's lovely. Yeah.
And he wrote the one he did for my Berlin Phil audition here. It was so difficult that I tried playing it in a concert once, and I decided, no, we're not doing that. So I couldn't
play your cadenza, so I'm sure there's too much bass clef for me.
There's quite a lot of bass clef in there, but it's quite important, I think, for me also, like in the third concerto, that you put a couple of high B flats in the cadenza, and you don't necessarily need in the fourth to go down to a pedal F, though. We hear that quite a lot. It's like, okay, you can play a pedal F. If you can fit it in nicely, put it in, but if you're just going to honk it out just for the sake of it, I don't know.
Well, just a thought, just as you was just saying that, over the years, certainly with Mozart, what has impressed us? You might not agree, but certainly for me, what has impresses me the most, and often it's not the running around the instrument and high and low and loud and stuff. It's just nice, beautiful musical playing. Is so much more impressive than all the other stuff.
Jen says she finds it quite terrifying to write her own. She tends to steal snippets from recordings and try and patch them together. She'd love some to hear. She'd love some suggestions. Nuri says it's always best to write your own cadenza. Andrew Bain would like to give her thoughts on the Ashes Fifth Concerto. Right. Well.
Thank you, Andrew.
I wish I would be able to stay off of that. Thank you very much. Maurizio Villalobos says, do you use a chord progression for the cadenza? There's a sort of, is there a rule for a cadenza? Do you have to start with bum 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 bum, or do you? I wish you could play me yours now. You got a concert.
No. Actually, my father-in-law wrote not that I'm going to use it, but once I did do it. He wrote a cadenza for me for the third concerto. And he was professor of violin at the Guildhall School of Music at the time, and he started it out in the minor key.
Oh.
So I don't know what that means, but
Yeah.
it was fun. It was fun.
That's a little bit sort of sad, though. It's like, okay, sorry, here's my cadenza.
A tiny little bit, but it did go on with other things in it.
Jen says, start with major and embellish.
Quite.
Stay with natural horn appropriate notes and try flashy, lyrical flashy. I don't know. I don't agree that it has to be completely flashy. You've got to have something in there.
You've got to have something in there. But I mean, the material. There's so much material you can use out of the concerto. That's not just in the horn part. Obviously, that's in the music, in the string music. So shouldn't be left with.
And little quotes of other things. Why not?
No.
Why not?
Really?
I'm saying that only because my cadenza will have something tiny, a little bit of something Cuban hidden in there. But I'm recording it in Cuba. So
well, yeah, and you're doing it. It's an well. You'll tell everybody as it comes out, but it's going to be, just alternative, interesting. So you're allowed to do that, but I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Are you not alternative and interesting?
Thank you.
I think you are. But a good question's just come in. Blaze says, greetings from Alabama. And there's a lot of people. Hi, Blaze. And Heidi asks, has anyone made a collection of cadenzas? There is a collection of cadenzas that I found online and I couldn't open. Have a look. See if anyone can find that. I know there is a collection somewhere. It would be amazing to make a collection of people's cadenzas, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be.
Maybe we should try and organise that.
Even if it was a collection of the cadenzas that have
already been
recordings
recorded.
that are out there.
Someone's got to sit down and write them all out.
Yeah,
Who's up for that, you guys?
Yeah,
that would be amazing. So Ricardo asks, is there any way not to have nerves while playing a cadenza? Now that's a very good thing because you get to digga 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 digga.
Well, I mean,
sorry, just hit my mic.
I can't speak for professional players, other than myself, but I can certainly give the insights to what I've heard my students do, or been on panels or whatever it is. I have heard people get nervous when they get to the cadenza because the cadenza is so difficult. Oh. It's the thing that they're most worried about.
And you play on your own.
Yeah. So it shouldn't be. I have heard people do that where they put so much in cadenza. They play the actual music fine, in 3 and 4. Get to the cadenza and are so worried about that, then get nervous.
So the moral of that story is make sure your cadenza is not too hard for you.
Yeah, you've got to play to your strengths.
I agree.
You don't want to hear what you can't do.
I agree.
That's probably the main thing.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any more Mozart concerto questions? Because Annie actually gave me a really good one yesterday when we were texting. She said, "What would you say when a student comes and says Mozart is easy?" Because I've had that before. Well, not easy, but they think Mozart 3 is easy. Mozart 3 is definitely not easy.
Well, we touched on this at the beginning. People think that Mozart 3 is easy just because the range that it's in. There's nothing particularly high and there's nothing particularly low. It's in that octave and a half that you play. But actually, to make Mozart 3 sound interesting and lyrical, because it can get very regimented, particularly Mozart 3, because that is very difficult.
Yeah.
And
do
particularly
you have any tips?
Well, actually, one of my big things for Mozart 3 is trying to avoid.
Julie's favourite, by the way, Mozart 3.
Is a lot of people actually don't realise that they play half of it in 2/4. And it's in 2. And that's one of the things that you hear a lot of people doing that and emphasising middle of the bar when they shouldn't do that. And that if you can get away from that and play over the bar lines.
But you don't want it to be in 4/4 either. Da 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 da. You don't.
No, actually, what I try and do. One of the interesting things that I have done, not with number 3 actually, but actually with number 4. But we were talking about 3 for now. But it doesn't matter. You could do it with number 3. Was actually to get. I with the invention of Sibelius, the music program, I got somebody to write the part out for me, from beginning to end.
Okay.
Without any bar lines whatsoever, and no dynamics.
Gosh.
And so, okay, so now just play that. Because you do find that a lot of people emphasise
Do you still have
bar
Mozart 3
lines.
like that?
No, I haven't done Mozart 3 like that yet, but I've got the part of Mozart 4 like that. And you
idea.
could do, and I would suggest that people actually do that. It's easy to, it takes 20 minutes to do it, I suppose, to write the part out.
Yeah.
Take all the dynamics out of it, all, you know, and just, in the latest Brykoff edition, there's only half the slurs are in there anyway, and all the bar lines out, and it looks completely different. And we certainly don't get 2/4, and then we don't get 4/4. We get longer, say Mozart 3. We don't
think
get
of it in one
we never get that.
Well,
or
should we think of it in one? Da, na, 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 na,
exactly. That's actually, I've waffled on. It would have been easier to say, try and do it in one.
Okay, he's waffled on, but try and do it in one. That's really, actually really good tip. I shall try and do that. The other thing that I find challenging, and I found this preparing, I hadn't played a concerto literally in 25 years. I am not, you know, I don't like playing solo, but for my Cubans, I really wanted to do it. And when I went out on stage, I had to be pushed out on stage, by the way, because I really did not want to go out there. And I had someone backstage, right, you're on. I don't want to go, you're on. And then all I saw were phones, and I thought, oh, it's a terrible thing. But they don't have very good internet, so they can't post it. So that's okay. So that they use that as their, you know, as their lessons, you know. So, but I found preparing for it, I've listened to Mozart 3 so many times. Here for Academy auditions, for PMF auditions, everywhere. I've played it so much. Mozart 3, second movement was the first piece I'd ever played. To get that student mentality out of your mind, to stop it from being an audition piece, to turn it back into a piece of music. That's why I love the Sibelius idea of yours, to take out all the bar lines. And when people ask me how to do that, my advice is you just got to start singing it again.
Well, that's true. If you're singing, you know, you're not actually thinking about cracking notes. You're just thinking about playing lyrically, or singing lyrically all the time. And that's the same with horn playing. And we do spend an inordinate amount of time just trying not to crack notes. And unfortunately, that makes us play in a very wooden, stiff way. And yes, and that is the hardest thing, which is why Mozart 3 is hard, is to transcend just playing the right notes.
Julie has to leave. Sorry,
bye,
Julie. Have a lovely day.
Bye. Thank you for the sushi meal in Santa Barbara.
Oh, she took you to sushi meal? That's expensive.
It was.
Nice. Bye, Julie. Thanks for joining us. Jen says she thinks having gracious ends of phrasing can help it sound more classy. People forget the tailing off of.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm constantly berating people to try and play with these nice soft endings and not play. Again, often an ending is on a bar line.
How many times have you heard that? Yeah.
For example, but you wouldn't. It's amazing what we get away with on the horn. And if you heard certainly heard a string player do that, you'd think, no, that's just bad playing. But we do certain things on the horn, and we don't even sort of question it, because we're sort of horn players, brass players. But that's something I've learned a lot from being married to a string player is phrasing.
That's not a bad idea. How about, I think I might do that. I might go into a practice room with one of my favorite Berlin Phil violinists, or it could be even cello, and get them to sight read that and see what they do with it. That would be fascinating, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Right, we're going to do that. Or is there anyone in Berlin going to come along and play it for me? That would be great. That would be really cool. There's a funny question from Tanner. He says, how often are cadenzas improvised on the spot, as opposed to previously written or composed? How would you feel about an improvised cadenza in a different style? No, not for me anyway.
There's only a couple of people I know who could do that.
Arcady would do that?
Arcady could do that. And actually, actually just made a really fine recording of the Mozart concertos on the hand horn is Philip Eastop.
He could do that, couldn't he?
He could do that, because he's got the brain to do that. He could just. I mean, he plays all sorts of instruments. Yeah. He is like Arcady.
I mean, my Cubans can pick up their horn and just go, blah, 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 and it's amazing. But whether that's the style of Mozart, I mean, yeah. It's something which we can't. What we say is not the gospel. You know, we can only talk about our the way we see things, which is very similar.
Yes, it is.
If you want to try something out and go crazy, try it out and see what the reaction is. I remember someone doing an audition here, and there were a lot of hand stop notes, the cadenza and stuff, and it was sort of almost disturbing, because if you're playing on the natural horn, okay, but to play a lot of hand stop notes in a cadenza where you've played on the modern horn, it was a little odd. But, you know, it was someone trying something new.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, greeting from the Ukraine, from Taras, and good evening from Tokyo Horn Girl. Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's really fun. Jose Antonio Dabreo says inspiring. Diane is in Canberra, Australia.
Canberra.
Wim is in Belgium. Oh my goodness. Daniel says greetings from the students of the Brass Academy Alicante. Hola, chicos. Chicas y chicos.
You should say hello from Yuri.
Good. What else do we have? What else have we got to talk about Mozart horn concertos? If you're very good, I've got Mozart balls for you.
Oh, I'd love one.
Yeah, you want one now?
Oh, go on.
You want one now?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're my favourite.
We've put a horn hangout sticker over the advertising, because we thought we'd rather advertise. So, for those of you who don't know what Mozart balls are,
No, because she hasn't even eaten it.
No, they're for you. I got them for you.
Look. You haven't even eaten one.
No.
I'll just make them a little bit
They're
bigger.
actually quite disgusting, to be honest.
Are they?
Yeah. Have you never had one?
Well, I have, but I don't think they're disgusting. Oh, I'll have that one.
They are marzipan and green stuff,
No, they're lovely.
and that you buy them all over. And I just thought it was nice decoration, because we need a bit of decoration here. It's probably in full down. Go on then.
Actually, the only thing I wanted to finish up with is we're sort of getting to the end of the questions that are on there. That I do think that what's impacted negatively how we play
Here, you can have mine.
Mozart. Go on, I'll finish yours. Is you know, we're playing on so much bigger equipment these days than you know, the hand horns are smaller bore, smaller bells, and it's much easier on an authentic instrument to get a lot of different colours on the instrument.
You mean the bell of the natural horn? I mean, obviously it's smaller than our bell.
Yeah.
And it's also lighter.
Yeah, and the cylindrical bore is smaller. You know, we're playing with that Alexander's 12.1 millimetre bore, but these are probably about 11.3.
I even put the E flat crook on for you.
Oh.
So that.
Yeah, when I say the cylindrical bore, I mean, you know, this.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the bell.
Well, I am. I've two different things.
Don't speak with a mouthful.
Excuse me. The cylindrical bore is a lot smaller on an original horn.
Yeah.
It gives a completely different sound, and also the actual bore size of the bell where your hand is much smaller.
Show that to Thomas there. Yeah. Yeah. It feels quite big. This Holstead web feels actually quite large.
These are.
It's very green in there.
He did a couple of different bell sizes, and this is the classical one, I think. But generally, the ones that I've seen, compared to a modern horn, are smaller, and with a smaller cylindrical board. The range of colours, partly because the whole thing brasses up a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that the dynamic levels that the original instruments are playing at is much lower than our modern instruments. And
I feel sometimes really pushed by the orchestra, you know? The modern orchestras are scrubbing away, and you think you've got to really...
Well, it's now things are coming back. I mean, let's not forget. I mean, I remember the days of doing some concertos, you know, where they had 10 first violins.
Yeah.
You know, 10, 8,
what is the ideal... For Mozart horn concerto, what is the ideal? I just had 10. It was too many.
That's too many. Yeah. For me, it's actually 6. It's 6.
6? That's too naked.
6, 5, 4.
Really?
Yeah. 3, 2.
Is that what you're going to do yours with?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I have to think
about it. It doesn't need to be that big. It's actually, you know, there's a lot of...
6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. That's really... I had 10, 8... 6, 4, 3,
big,
and I felt
tired. Big orchestra.
It was.
For Mozart's day.
it was.
You know, and especially at modern pitch, is it?
Yeah. Okay.
And from my experience, is that the lower pitch, you know, 420 something. You know, you can get a lot more sound because it doesn't sound so forced and brittle at the modern pitch. Well, let's not talk about pitch here in Berlin because that's
we play very sharp.
Very sharp.
We play a proper pitch, and tonight in your concert you're going to be very flat.
Well,
440.
But it's 441-ish.
Oh, okay.
And what are you, 444-ish?
Officially 443, but on a
okay, we're officially 440.
Yeah.
So, but I know these sharper pitch, it does make a difference. It does make a difference. So my whole point being is that, on the modern horn, that's exactly that. You have to be careful of not turning into Mahler.
Yeah.
I often say that to people. Look, it's Mozart, not Mahler.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But too timid is also not good. You've got to get over that. You've got to anyway. You're like a singer in these things.
Yeah.
Do any of you have any more questions for us about Mozart? Otherwise, Tim and I are going off to have another cup of tea because you've got a rehearsal very soon.
In
about 20 minutes or something like that. And if you have any more questions, if you're watching on Facebook, we need the questions here, guys, on the website. Otherwise, I will give you a copy of the chat, and you can answer them all later
of course.
if you want. What would you say to a student approaching a Mozart for the very first time?
Gosh, that's a catch-all question.
I know. Sorry, that's a mean one. I'm glad you didn't ask me that.
Yeah. What was? Okay, I'll turn it round then.
Yeah, thanks. What would I say?
As we've got the music, this is the very first thing you ever played, apparently.
Yes, it was.
Number 2. So what did your teacher say to you for the first time
you
played it?
Well, it wasn't in this book. It was in a blue book of horn solos, primary horn studies.
Okay.
And I don't think I realized it was from Mozart. But he told me to breathe, I remember. Yeah. And I found that slur, even the concert, I found ba-dum-bum-bum-ba-da-da. For some reason, I found that hard. You have to really put quite a lot of air through there for me, and it's sort of.
Yeah, well, I mean that goes into what I was saying earlier on about how playing the hand horn. You have to bear that in mind when you're playing it on the modern horn, because what you've just sung is da dee da dum bum. 3 of those notes that are stopped.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, they are. Ba-da-bum, but you're right.
But the bit that you're worried about, that's really sticking out. It doesn't do that. It doesn't do that on the hand horn.
It's only a half stop thing.
Yeah, I know, but it's very easy to make that a nice soft note. You can, which is.
Can I have a lesson with you?
Get off.
I want a lesson with you. Diane Tan asked, do you have any comments on the Leopold Mozart concerto?
I don't personally. I've not played it.
I haven't either. No. Isn't there a concerto also for a hose pipe?
Yes, there is.
Yeah?
Yes, there is. No,
also Leopold Mozart?
Yeah, I've not played
hose
it.
pipe and strings, I love that. Margaret says, are you guys going to play? Well, Tim's horn is firmly packed up.
It's packed in this case. I've got to warm up in a minute. I will be playing, but off camera, so I'm going to go and warm up in a second.
And anyway, we've got Mozart kugels in our teeth. Did you like them?
I do like them.
Yeah, you do. Well, good. They're for you. But the team might. We've got Chris, we've got Thomas here, we've got George and Jakob doing the
so
editing.
So your project is your Mozart project is starting next year.
Yeah, we've done all the rehearsal. We've got all the arrangements done. We rehearsed it and performed it already in Havana, and we're recording it at the beginning of January. So it should be out. It's Beethoven year. So I thought that's the best year.
I'll do some Mozart.
Yeah, I thought that's the best year because everyone's going to be thrilled to not have something Beethovenish.
So it's going to be 3, the first one you're going to do.
Yeah, and then the other one.
And all the other stuff, and then and the
Mozart y Mambo, and also the Havana horns are going to play Que Rico el Mambo.
Okay.
Which is
so there's going to be a few CDs coming along.
Well, just this one for now. Yeah.
For now,
I think we're going to bankrupt us all doing this one, but we're making a documentary about it as well.
That's good.
So they're just amazing. I love teaching students that are like sponges. With them, you don't have to say, okay, put your tooth here and your lip there and your chin and you just say, I play it for them and I say, play it like that. And they play it back to me. And then they just can musically copy so well. And when it's sounding good, of course, it's all working fine, you know?
Yeah.
It's great.
That's lovely.
It's really lovely. Greg just woke up from LA. Hello, Greg. Good morning. Greg Russa, he's second horn in LA Phil.
Yes.
Greg, tell us please who your favorite Mozart horn concertos, which CD, which recording, which are your favorite? Tell us. We're almost finished. So good that you just woke up. Heidi says, any thoughts on playing the Quintet? Well, we love the Quintet. It's a fantastic piece. Is it harder than the concertos?
It's different. It's different. It's musically, it's there's a lot to get your teeth into, and you're playing with intimate relationship with the strings that are sitting next to you. I like playing the quintet, actually. I really do.
Do you know the trio version with piano and violin?
No.
It's really nice. Really nice. And I find the tuning easier with piano and violin than with the whole quintet.
Well, the problem with the horn quintet is where do you put the violas when you're playing it, and where do you put the horn? There are a lot of people with the horn say we've got a quartet horn sitting out there, but that's no good for the audience because you only hear the horn.
Can you split them up and sit in the middle? Nah.
Well, it's actually, I did it a couple of times last year where I sat in the middle, had one viola either side of me, and cello and violin out there. Just that's always the thing. Why did he write two violas?
Well, why? Why do you think he wrote 2 years? Oh, I have another question. But before I ask your question, greetings from Mexico from Carolina. Matt Heislip says, hi Matt, he says he loves your sound.
Oh, thank you.
And Greg says, good morning. Ignacio Morabito says, hey from Chile. Do you remember we played the flash mob with him?
We did, yeah.
Ignacio, hola, ¿cómo estás? And a good question from Jen's just come in about what do you recommend students about articulation for the third movements of Mozart? Of all the Mozarts, how to keep it light and jaunty. That's not too hard, again. No, not too
actually,
good question.
You've
Jen.
answered it. We've both answered that in different ways. But I would pontificate, say, don't play it in 3/8, and you would say, it's got to be in 1.
Yeah. Well, we're playing it in 5/4 for the mambo, but anyway, you will.
Oh, well, I've seen the bit of music you showed me earlier on.
Don't tell everyone it's a surprise. It's a surprise. Greg's favorite is Dennis Brain, but there are so many. I have a question. You know Leutgeb or Leitgeb?
Leutgeb, yeah.
Was a cheesemonger, and he was a friend of Mozart's, although Mozart insulted him all the time. And the concertos, except for number 3, they're not quite sure if number 3 was written for him, but all the others were.
Yeah.
And they think maybe that's why number 3 is a little bit more musically, had a little bit more musical depth, because it wasn't for him, but nobody really knows for sure. There are these little points in the last movements with the fermata, like here in 3, where Leutgeb would be like ba ba da ba da ba 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 ba. Da, 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 da. What do people do there? What would you do there? Would you put a little, like especially at the end, but before it gets to the final bit.
I mean, I'm not going to put a cadenza there. I'm just going to treat.
Doesn't have to be a cadenza though.
No, people put in, not cadenza. They put in an extra bar or something on their own. If I was really honest, the only reason I'm going to do that, my own personal preference, is for that, and it's never really convincing for me to put anything in there. It sounds contrived.
Jen, Andrew, what do you say? Greg, would you put something in there?
I mean, that's why music is such a wonderful thing, isn't it? There is scope to do things. I might say it sound contrived, and somebody might say, oh, that sounds fantastic, inventive.
Yeah. I want to lesson with you.
That's why we're all able to sit here and give our own views, because there's no one totally convincing view.
Yeah, guess not.
You can do certain.
That's the thing. That's the moral of this hangout. There is no one right or wrong, except to don't play Mozart like Strauss. But
I say Mozart like Mahler.
Mozart like Mahler. Yeah, that's okay. And some of it has to be a little bit, big and beefy.
Yeah, but not. No. I mean, you often hear the end of the first movement of number 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sort of Strauss, Mozart, all in one thing for me.
Do you play with the orchestra? Do you play some of the tuttis as well?
A
little bit, just to sort of. That's why in the third I was very grateful. He has that little bit to play with, and also the very last. Notes of the first movement are usually quite a good thing to play.
Yeah, no, do. Yeah. I do put those in.
Okay, now the questions are coming. We're actually 2 minutes away from finishing, guys. Brianna says, we all want a lesson with Tim. Dan says in Concerto 3 and 4, that's what I call warm-up measures at the beginning of the first movements before the main cue sign. Is it acceptable to omit those?
I think it is.
Admit or play?
Yeah.
Everything's, you've got to work out what's best for you.
I think that's okay.
Leo says, do you have any tips for achieving a relaxed and focused sound? Is it all in the air? Pretty much.
It is all in the air. Well, actually, I don't believe it's not all in the air. centre of the sound often comes from making, I mean, I say to my students, okay, let's just say, for example, all the way from low C to top C and all the notes in between, but even if one note is only a semitone away from the one you've just played, it is a slightly different embouchure and it's slightly different amount of air you've got to put through the horn. You know, and so it's making sure, we all talk about air, we know about air, we talk about it infinitum, but it's also making sure that the embouchure is centred in the middle of the note, because you can actually play quite well on sort of only 85% the right embouchure. And I've talked to my students and a lot about that. You can hear it when somebody's on the exact right embouchure with the right amount of air, that the sound just blossoms. So the thing I add to my students, we all know about the air, is to try and find the centre of the embouchure and get the right. We talk about air pressure, but I also talk to my students about embouchure pressure. That means the bit around here as well, so that it's solid. So that will give you a good centre of a note.
That is a subject for another hangout. I
It is.
think let's get on to that.
Thank you.
But thank you all so much for joining us today. Really, it's been amazing also to have Tim here. He's got to go and warm up. I'm going to go and listen. Give Sir Simon a big hug too.
Yeah, we do
Can't
that.
wait to see your section as well.
Very good.
Thanks for joining us. If there are any more questions, then write them in the chat. We'll see what we can do to answer them. But it's been fantastic to have you. Thank you very much to my amazing. I wish I could turn the cameras around and show my amazing team. In fact, I'm going to take a picture of you all right now. So, and is everyone going to wave? Yeah, ready? 1, 2, 3. Gotcha. Everyone online is waving too, because I've got them all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tim, very, very
Lovely.
much. And let's have some more Mozart balls. Wish you were here
I've
to
got
join
another
us.
one here.
You've got one here. Yeah. See you on the next live horn hangout. Not quite sure where or when, but be assured there will be one. Hi, Hads and Tim. Thank you for joining us and letting us use your 5-stream platform. That was amazing. And Alexander's for helping us sponsor the horn hangouts. Oh, I've got a present for you. Speaking of which, look, new merchandise.
What is this?
Look at this. Is this cool? This is to polish your horn. Look.
Oh, darling.
Look.
And I've got the first one, have I?
You got the first one? Look at that. Yeah. Not quite the first one. I've been handing them out all summer.
Oh, right, okay. I've got the
But you're the first one in the LSO.
first one in London.
The first one today. Yes, first
Okay.
one in London.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.